Good morning. I'm going to make another video and it is a beautiful early morning, Sunday morning, and I just want to show you the moon because it is just a little slice, and when I just stepped out of the door it immediately caught my eye. Yeah, isn't that pretty? Yeah. So here I go again, and yeah, I'm very happy that I am where I am and that I've done what I've done, because I could only be where I am because I have done what I've done. And you could say in some ways that I had to do what I had to do to be where I am. And you know, of course it's all in retrospect that I am saying this, but you know, it is nice to look back in the sense that where you are is of course explained by where you have been. And yeah, I'm happy where I am, so you know, I can afford to look back, and while doing that I can also look forward to the future, because without losing track of where I am right now. Yeah, and that's one of the riches of embodied language. Yeah, you are so affluent with embodied language, you're so rich, so capable, and so flexible that you can speak about the past and the present and the future, and you are still having embodied language. Usually when people speak about the past or the future, they lose track of their here and now experience, and yeah, there cannot be any embodied language when you lose track of this experience in the here and now. So it's interesting also from a perspective of what is time, that time doesn't exist in the here and now. So the whole idea of future and past, it sort of collapses in this moment, and we are always in the moment. There's nothing else than the moment in which we live. And yeah, you can make some sort of an assumption about that. Let's say, for instance, I've seen the footage of a person who doesn't have memory and who lives always in the now. Well, that person doesn't live in the now because he doesn't have a memory. And what that person calls a now is not the now that is the now for a person who has a memory. The person who has memory can experience the now better than the person who doesn't have memory. The person who doesn't have memory has no idea that he's experiencing the now. And yeah, they can say that it's always now, and they can make it seem as if everything is happening now. But no, there is no there's no past. There is no past to explain the now. And of course there's always a past to explain the now. Yeah. And there's also a future to sort of to sort of say, like, well, what's happening now is good for the future. Because we are going there and we are going to get there. It's going to happen. This what I'm talking about is going to happen, and I know it is, and I know it has been. And everything that I have said has happened. So, and I'm not making any grand grandiose predictions or anything like that. You know, I mean, my my prediction is simply that I will continue with my embodied language. And yeah, there may be moments, there may be instances, there may be brief distractions, but I always go on with my embodied language. Yeah, and anyone who seriously begins to speak with themselves and listen to themselves will predictably figure out the same thing, because that is how embodied language works. Yeah. And if you by chance still have some kind of a fear, or I don't know, some sort of a upset about something, or some kind of a bad memory, so to speak, yeah, and some old wound, so to speak, or old grievances, yeah, that you still are upset about something, you're still pissed, you're still feeling like you wanna, I don't know, you wanna make your point, you wanna set the record straight, you wanna say it as it is. Well, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and give yourself the opportunity to verbalize it, to say it, to hear it, to own it, to let yourself know that is so. You have that. Yeah, you have that chip on your shoulder, yeah, because you can call it that also. You have that axe to grind, yeah, that is also how they speak about it, an axe. You have an axe to grind. And yes, after you do that, after you say all that, look how pretty. It is so nice to be here so early in the morning. You know, this morning we are probably going to hear some coyotes. It is a good morning for howling coyotes. I'm just saying, you know, it could be. I'm not saying it's going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me if I hear some howling coyotes. Anyways, so it doesn't matter whether you have that old picture all of a sudden popping up, that old memory all of a sudden that you are carried away by. You just say it. You just express it. You just hear it. And you let yourself know, okay, whatever it is, you know, you can be angry, you can be upset, you can be frustrated, you can be disappointed, you can be sad, you can be, you hurt, you can be hurt, yeah. It's painful to sometimes remember the past, what has happened. It's painful, it is sad, it is dreadful, yeah. And maybe you get enough of your own dreadfulness, and maybe you get also sick and tired of your own frustration, your own eternal upset, and your justification for why you are always the way you are, because you are the way you are, because you carry all that stuff with you and you cannot let it go. But what is that let it go? How can you let it go if you don't listen to yourself, if you don't speak with yourself? Yeah, you need to speak with yourself, and if you let it go, it is because you have heard it. You've heard it all. You've said it all. Yeah, and you know that you've said it all. And so that is not a matter of, I don't know, trying to hide in some sort of a spiritual, what is it, la la land. No, you're not trying to be silent, trying to be mindful, trying to be, what is it? Trying to be peaceful, yeah? Trying to be meditative. No. You are saying everything. And you're not done yet. You haven't even started yet. Yeah. You better get started, because how much time do you still have? Yeah. I was once, this is a real story. I was once doing elderly care, and I was sitting at the bed, and this was palliative care, right? End of life care. And do they call it palliative care? I believe they do. Anyway, I was sitting at the bed of this old man. He was a really horrible man, I tell you. I mean, when he was still up and about, I was in the last couple of weeks of his life, and when he was still a little bit good, I would put him in a wheelchair, and we would go to the dining room. He was living in a senior home, but I was his caretaker and his partner in these last moments. And if there was any situation that required a nurse, there would be immediately a nurse nearby. So I was just keeping an eye on him and helping him with his needs. And I was going through my graduate study in psychology back then. But in any case, I helped him in his wheelchair, and I bathed him and all that. And as we were going together to the dining room, he would sometimes do really erratic things. One time he would deliberately, it just totally baffled me. I could not believe my own eyes when I saw that he actually did that. He deliberately rode with his wheelchair over the foot of an old lady. And that lady was really in pain, and he laughed. He thought it was funny. And he was apparently enjoying his little obnoxious behavior, hurting this other old lady. It's like, what? I could not believe that this was happening, and it happened so quickly. He just pulled his wheelchair and he ran over her. And I just go like, nah, this can't. Anyway, this same man, very mean man, apparently had been very mean in his life. I don't know who he was. I've never met any of his family. He was just there in this senior home, and I was assigned to him. And he was also, to me, very unpleasant, I should say. Even as a very old man, I was helping him with everything that he needed, and he could have been pleasant, but he wasn't. He was a nasty old man, really horrible. It was kind of like, for me, it was like the ultimate nightmare. Here I am with this old bastard. And but I took care of him, and he was oh my God, he could not hold his shit, so he would shit. And then if he was in his bed, he would roll in his bed because he could not walk anymore. And if I wasn't there quickly enough, it would have just all spread all over in his diapers. And it was just such a mess. And I cleaned that up many, many times. But And I also had to call assistance because to lift him up, it was almost impossible. And I had to sort of roll him over to clean him. And that was also very, very difficult sometimes because he would sometimes resist. And oh my goodness, that was like a very, very difficult situation for me to deal with. But this is what happened. He spoke very, very little. He spoke very, very little. The only time that I heard him say something funny or something a little bit pleasant was when he was eating. He was eating some cake and he was drinking some coffee. And that was sort of just something that seemed to please him somewhat. And so that was making the whole trip to the dining room worthwhile. Because he could, of course, also get his stuff in his room. But no, getting him showered, getting him dressed, getting him in the wheelchair. And so, okay. But he would be mostly quiet. He would be totally, not responsive, but he was just letting himself being taken care of by me. And it was interesting. I remember there was another lady who also took care of him, who, when my shift was over, she took over. And this lady, she had horses. And she was telling me about her horses, and she was telling me about how she treats her horses the same way as she treats him. I thought that was really interesting. But I actually learned a lot from her because she was very firm and at the same time good, yeah, and also more experienced than I was. But in any case, this guy, I will not talk about his name, doesn't matter. He was just an old, nasty old man, and he's long gone now. And he's not missed by anybody, although I talk about him here. He didn't say much of anything, which was also kind of challenging to me because I'm talkative. But, I was just assigned there to basically sit with him and to do these chores that I was just describing. And then, the rest of the time that he was... seemingly okay. I was just reading my books. I was just studying, and if he needed something, I would help him. And so that went on for a couple of weeks, and he became gradually calmer while I was there. And it was clear that he was on his way out. But like I said, he didn't say much of anything, and I'd made a couple of attempts, but I had already given up really quickly because there was really no way you could talk with this man. But what happened was, at some point, while he was in his bed, and while I had again cleaned him up and again, made him comfortable, again, done everything that I needed to do. And he would just lay there in his bed, not say anything. And when I was working with him, I would still talk to him. I said, okay, now you need to move here. I'm going to move you like this. I'm going to move you like that. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do that. So I just let him know everything that I was doing. And and I said to him, I'm doing this for you, and it would be nice if you could show some respect, It would be nice. I know you aren't saying anything, but, I'm helping you, and, you're not very cooperative, and you're not being very kind to me. But I'm sitting here and I'm a psychology student, and I'm I'm just trying to do the best I can to help you, and you don't say anything to me, and I'm just sitting here. It's in the middle of the night. I should be asleep, but I'm here keeping an eye on you. And anyway, I knew that it was ridiculous of me to say that because it wouldn't go anywhere. I knew it was just me, yeah, of course also being somewhat frustrated, but you know, I did what I had to do, and it was also true that I didn't say anything nasty, or I just said what I felt like what was going on. And so he became quieter and quieter, less movement, less, and also sometimes he started to, what was it? Sometimes he had started moving around uneasily, and then all of a sudden that movement stopped again. So he had sort of like some sort of spasms or something. And while the nurse was there, and you know, everything was medically, you know, monitored, and I was just sitting there waiting for things to happen, and you know, it was clear that he was gonna die eventually. And then one night, it really felt like I was in this strange reality with this old man in the middle of the night. And here, like, I'm a young and eager psychology student. I'm reading all these books, and I'm sitting there with this totally non-communicative, what is it? This remnant of a human being, because it is basically, he's still a human being, but it's kind of like, this is what's left. And anyway, one night I'm sitting there and I hear him mumble, and I hear him say something, and I'm really surprised because I'm half asleep, of course. I'm sitting in his chair next to his bed. There's a chair that you can put your legs up, you know, kind of like you lay in it. And so I was sitting there in this chair, half asleep, and all of a sudden I hear him talk, and I go like, wow, he's speaking, but I can't hear what he's saying. And I go closer, and I say his name, and I say, what are you saying? And he starts to speak. He says, there are still so many words near my mouth. They're coming out. I have words. And I said, yeah, I hear him, that's great. Keep going, you know, I was really excited. I was really like, it was like a revelation. All of a sudden he speaks. He says, yeah, so many words. And I said, I hear them. He said, yeah, I hear him too. He said, I hear them too. I heard them too. I said, that's great. And before I knew, he had already stopped talking again. And I just go like, what? And he just stopped talking, and he was just asleep again or whatever, dozing off. And I felt like, wow, it felt like an incredible experience that he had talked, and that he was speaking about words being near his mouth, and that he could bring them out, that he heard himself. And it was really like, wow, he had a little bit of embodied language at the very last moment. And believe it or not, a couple of days after that, he died. And so that was it. And that was the end of my assignment there. And what a relief that was. Whew. That was kind of like the most difficult person that I've ever taken care of in my life. Yeah. And yeah. And here I am at this moment talking about embodied language and letting you know, yeah, that was this old man. And this old man is kind of like a illustration of how, yeah, you know, what were, you know, people often wonder, well, like, what were his last words? Yeah, well, yeah, are you going to wait until the very last end to say your last words and to say something meaningful? Or are you going to say it, are you going to say it during your life? Yeah, during your life in which you are doing all these nasty things. And yeah. And you're doing all these nasty things with your disembodied language. Yeah. And you can justify it, you can explain it, or you can you know, ignore it and say like, well, you know, it's just what happens. It's just the way life is. Everybody engages in disembodied language, I know. But that doesn't mean that you do not have the consequences of your own horrific disembodied language. You are experiencing these consequences. And I'm experiencing the consequences of my embodied language. Yeah. And that's called justice. Yes. Yes. So I can speak about this old man and I have no bad feelings about it. I've done what I needed to do. And I've learned from it. And I'm also looking back at this picture of what it was like back then to recognize how wonderful it is where I am now. Yeah, I am here in this bike ride in this early morning. The sun isn't even up yet. It's still going to be an hour before. I see a beautiful buzzard flying there. So nice to be here in the early morning. This is the best. Didn't hear any coyotes. No. Have you seen that video? Have you seen that video on which, or heard that video on which you can hear the coyotes? That is such a nice video. Oh, I just love that video. It's so nice that I could record that. Yeah. But it's also so nice to hear my own howling. Ow! I like also these songs which have a little bit of that howling sound in it. I'm going to walk for a little bit. So sniff my nose. This time I took tissue with me. I said, why don't you ever take tissue with you? Okay. So today, one more day of work, and then I've got a day off. Finally. I worked 6 days in a row. I'm not going to talk about my work now. I don't feel like it. You know, it is so nice to to know that you have nothing to say and that you can talk about anything you like to say. And yeah, you also do not have any obligation to speak about anything you don't want to say. So you're just totally free with your language. And that is language enlightenment. And that language enlightenment is obviously expressed in your ongoing embodied language, but it is of course also expressed in your silence. I'm reminded of a time when I was camping somewhere. We were, I believe, in Washington, that is north of California, and near Oregon, and we were camping somewhere, and I was going out of my tent to go pee, and all of a sudden there's this big bear standing there in the bushes. A big bear! Oh my God, a big bear! A big bear! I just go like, oh my God! Running back to the tent would be just as dangerous as staying put. It was so close by. And we were camping in the wild. But luckily nothing happened. The bear saw me, and the bear, he stood on his two hind legs. He's sort of looking over the bushes. And when he saw me, he sort of just put his foot down and he walked away on all fours. So luckily not in my direction. But I went back to the tent immediately and startled Bonnie like crazy. It's like, why are we here? Why are we putting ourselves in danger? Well, I guess we've done some foolish things. I've done some foolish things. But yeah, I'm still here, and I'm glad to tell the story of what I've experienced. This is also such a nice place here. It's so nice, so peaceful. The two parts of the creek here, you know, you see the diversion here to the other side, but there's not enough water now in the creek. and so it doesn't divert into the other direction. Hear the water. It's interesting to say something more about the future. I remember when I was younger, I was always very worried about the future. And in the sense that when I begin to supposedly think about the future, I felt always worried. Like, what is going to become of me, and what am I going to do, and how is it going to be, and you know, as a kid, we learned in school about the war and about the Second World War, and my father, he was also very yeah impacted by the Second World War. He spoke about it, in my opinion, quite often. In references, let me put it this way. It was of course one of the most seminal events in his life. I would believe. And in any case, I was always, yeah, you know, being a Catholic kid, praying for world peace and praying that the poor will no longer be poor, and that the people who are hurting are no longer hurting. That's what my future always was about, and that we would all just have peace, and that we would all just get along. And that that all the suffering would be ending. I'm just gonna sit here for a little while. It's so nice. You hear the water. I like that sound. Yeah. So yeah, whenever I was as a child imagining the future, I was always concerned about how is that going to be? How are we going to be peaceful? And I guess as a child I already noticed that people were not peaceful. In my family it was not often, most of the time it was not peaceful. Sometimes it was, but most of the time it wasn't. And a lot of turmoil in my family, a lot of commotion, a lot of arguing and screaming. And also with people that I knew, yeah, how's that peacefulness going to come about? But then when it comes to myself, I was just wondering, like, yeah, what are you going to be? What do you want to do? And as the older I got, you know, in my teenage years, the pressure was on, you know, like, yeah, you gotta. As a kid, I said, I want to be a pilot. Okay, that was just a kid talking. But as you grow up, you just got to get serious, yeah? I didn't know what I wanted to be. And I just wanted to be happy. It makes me sad to say that. I can still feel that sadness. But that's what I wanted. And so, and that's what I lived my life for. Not just, of course there's the desire for happiness. That's one thing. But there's of course also knowing that that embodied language that sets the stage for your happiness. And so yeah. Like if you take this whole Buddhistic paradigm, that all life is suffering, such a lie, such a total lie. All this Buddhism is a lie. Life is not suffering. Life can be wonderful if you have embodied language. And your desire to be happy is a natural desire. There's nothing wrong with that. And you need to long to be happy to have embodied language. And if you do not long to be happy, you're not going to have any embodied language. You are not having any embodied language because you've given up on your own ability to be happy. You've accepted your miserable life as the reality. Yeah. Well, I also accepted my miserable life as the reality, but in a little different way than you do. Yeah? You accept your miserable life as the reality with your disembodied language, although you don't know that. But I accepted my miserable reality with my embodied language. Yeah. Yeah. And so the issue that I'm addressing, the issue of language, which is used incorrectly in disembodied language, giving rise to a stupid dogma called Buddhism. Yeah. We are not supposed to say this because supposedly Buddhism is so wonderful. No, it's not. And of course, none of the religions are wonderful. They're all just, failed attempts at being happy. We have not addressed the real issue, which is language. And so all these religions are against language. I was raised Catholic. Now, none of my family members. It still astonishes me that none of my family members. I mean, I've made so many videos. None of my families has apparently the urge or the honesty, the interest to come my way to say like, okay, Maximus, I'm gonna have embodied language with you. I admit that what I was having was, of course, disembodied language. As your brother, as your sister, as your father, as your mother. My mother is no longer here with us. And my father is probably almost gone, because I do not have any contact anymore with my family. But it is amazing that through the years, Yeah. Last uh, birthday that I had, my sister, my oldest sister, out of the blue, she called me up, and which was nice, you know, for a split second, for a couple of minutes, we talked nicely with each other. But then, as I began to speak about who I am, it was just very clear that the distance that she created, I could just feel how she separated herself from me. Initially, it was all open and honest and direct and beautiful, and then it was just, I just felt how it just all couldn't be. And why it couldn't be, not because of me, but because of her wanting to be my older sister, or wanting to make it seem as if she did a great thing, calling me on my birthday out of the blue after years of not hearing anything. what are you what are you doing? It was an attempt, another failed attempt, okay, but yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't know, you know, in Holland, and we have a saying, that don't be happy with a dead bird. With een, niet blij wezen. Ik ben niet blij met een dode mus. I'm not happy with a dead. Yeah, you know, it's such a tiny little gray bird. You know. That means like, yeah, you know, you can toss something my way, and of course, in the past, I was very eager to be loved. I was very eager to be accepted. Very eager to be respected. Oh, this is something that I also want to address today. I want to address the issue of respect. Wow. Wow. Now I'm suddenly having a real experience here with it. Now that I mentioned this word respect. I want to close my eyes. I close my eyes. Respect is to be in the moment and to hear the sound of this creek. And the sound of these birds. Wow.